little bit, I'm going to come back and tell y'all a story. And it's going to be soon because I got to do it before I go to court today. And it's terrible weather outside. And I don't know what to do with my dog. I can't leave her in the car because it's raining. And so I can't crack the windows. And if I leave her here, she's going to shit all over the carpet. Because that's what she does when she's left alone. And there's all my stuff. I'm getting ready to go. So don't worry, everybody, okay? I thank you for all the phone calls and the messages I've been getting today. I appreciate it. But I'm getting my stuff ready, okay? I don't know what I'm going to do with all of it, but I'm going to figure it out. And then I'm going to leave here. Because I can't take this anymore either. I've been treated very unfairly. I have to start getting ready. But I need to tell this a little bit so that before I'm faced with the inability to say anything, I get my story out. Because I don't trust what's going to happen today. Mostly because I can't believe what has happened to me since all of this started 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I never would have thought I would be in this position with my entire life upside down and lost and taken from me and stolen and robbed in some of the most despicable ways. And I'm not even sure exactly who to point my finger to at this moment. But it doesn't matter anymore because today it all comes to an end for me. 6 years ago, I was randomly messaged out of the blue by this man. And I was surprised, but I'm not naive, so I know I'm not the only one. I'm not dumb. I'm pretty savvy, as a matter of fact, and I think most of y'all know that, but this continued a couple of conversations, and it was never inappropriate. Not once. It was never flirtatious. It was very cordial and nice and sweet, actually. And we seemed to get along very well, unusually well. And I was definitely having some feelings there, but of course I thought I was just struck. Then we went to Mexico, and for the first time ever, this man and I locked eyes. It was not the first time I had seen him. I'm not even sure if it was the first time he had ever seen me. I kind of think that he might have known who I was going way back into the days of Sandbox. Possibly, but I have no proof. Anyway, Mexico was the first time we locked eyes. And there was something there. It wasn't sparks for me. I felt like crazy fireworks. But of course, I still attributed that to being starstruck, you know. But he felt the same. That trip started a different type of conversation between us that became much more flirtatious and very frequent. We started speaking to each other every day. Not speaking, but chatting, I should say. We started to chat every day. Every day for months, we chatted. Many times all day long. Many times all day and all night long. Hours and hours and hours. And this is just in the beginning. Then, as you can imagine, private conversations happening many times over many months. But then he started to get weirded out. And I'm guessing because we were both married. And we became very close. But every time we would get very close, he would get very weird. And he would start pulling things away. But he wouldn't ever pull himself away. But you know, early on, we never pressured each other for getting out of our marriages or anything, but he made a comment once that said, I'll never be able to leave my wife. And it just sounded like a weird thing to say. And it wasn't because I prompted it. He just said it. But I brushed it off as they must not have a prenup, or it must be financial, or whatever the reason is. He wasn't happy with his wife. He wasn't happy in his marriage, but he couldn't leave. And he felt stuck. And so I just never pressured any of it and just continued the relationship because I enjoyed him so much. But whenever we would get close, too close that it would hurt because we wanted to be together, he'd pull away. And we would stop talking for a while. And I never pressured any of that. And he would always be the one to come back and message me back to rekindle what we had left. Sometimes it was weeks. Sometimes it was a couple of months. But it never went more than a couple of months. But this went on for years. Doing the same thing. Both of us still married. Neither one of us happy. But just in our lives. And, you know, we both had responsibilities, and I was living up to mine as well. And so that's what we did until the pandemic. And actually Neil Casal died. I think so then we took a pretty long break. This is the first time I had seen her go to Mexico. Almost like she had to go. And I'm not exactly sure what was happening through all this because we weren't speaking to each other. And I was pretty upset, but I was still going along with whatever I was supposed to go along with because I wasn't going to be pressuring anyone to leave their marriage. I wasn't trying to break up a marriage. I never was trying to break up a marriage. I was just in love and couldn't help myself. And I feel like he was too. So we just really enjoyed each other. And I was still married too, but I was home alone by myself a lot. And so it was just nice companionship to have. And he's smart and he's brilliant and funny. And we got along really well. So I missed him during this break. This break was the longest. It went on until April or May. But during this entire time, now I'm very active on social media. And he is too. As a matter of fact, he's very, very active on social media and always has been. Even back in the days, I'm pretty sure I was calling him out during the message board days. And y'all know what I'm talking about if you know what I'm talking about. But he ended up messaging me back. He's the one that messaged back. Although entirely through this entire thing, he never stopped paying attention to me. Everything was being followed. And not only that, we still flirted through these ways that we weren't talking. We just saw each other, like through stories and things like that. But there were other ways because we had already developed other ways. The emotions were so strong that we just couldn't seem to stay somehow away from each other. And this is the only way we could be together. So we made our friendship back again and we chatted again. And it was not nearly as flirtatious as it was before. It was just real. The connection's so real. We just weren't able to get away from that. And all this time I'm seeing shows. Well, except for through the pandemic. That was really hard, as a matter of fact. I didn't get to see him at all. Didn't get to see each other at all. So we developed this way of flirting and communication that we would be able to spend time together in a sense that nobody else was able to understand. And so we developed this long way of flirting these different ways because we never became that intimate. Even though we had been privately together a couple of times and had become intimate, we just never became that intimate. But then, in August of 2021, I separated from my husband and moved into the guest room of our house because we weren't getting along. And we're fine now. We're friends, and we totally agree that we're both unhappy. So that's okay. But anyway, that was in August. And then October, I went to Halloween in New Orleans, and I stayed with a friend. And she went home early, and I was hungover and decided that I was going to stay an extra night because my flight. So I called, changed my plane, and added an extra night at the hotel where I already was, and just went back to sleep. This is not terribly unusual, and y'all all know that. If you've been around this thing, we all have done it. So that's what I did. I was alone, and I went back to sleep, and I was in New Orleans, and I wanted to get up and go eat beignets and then have some gumbo and do these things before I went home, because I had been in New Orleans. I had not done any of these things all weekend because I was with a friend who likes to stand in line early, and so I happily did that with them and had lots of fun. But we didn't get to go do a lot of New Orleans stuff, so I was going to take that day and spend it wisely after I slept in a little bit. And so I did. Well, that's what I did. And I ended up in a gumbo shop. So while in this gumbo shop, I messaged him because not anything unusual. I was just letting him know how I had fun. And had mentioned, I bet you're already on your way home, because that's what was standard, was them leaving the next day. And so he immediately responded, because that's also standard of him. He always responded fairly quickly if he could, but said, no, I'm still here in New Orleans. And I immediately thought he was going to be playing with George at Tipitina's. And so I asked him that. And he said, no, I just wanted to stay an extra night. And here I am thinking to myself, oh my God, I stayed an extra night too. Are we both here by ourselves? So I asked him, are you here alone? And he responded, yes. And I was like, I'm at the gumbo shop and I'm here by myself too. Are we both? And we were. And so I am the one that said, I feel like maybe we should get together since we're both here. And he didn't hesitate. And so we ended up together. And I went to his room, his hotel, and later on that night, and ended up there for most of the night. Period. And that's when we finally, for the first time, well, you know. Anyway, after that, it was like, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. I don't think either one of us could ever be away from each other after that. Well, after that, I knew exactly what I wanted, but I think he did too. And he went back home, and I'm not exactly sure what happened, but something happened. And he went to his wife about something. And I'm not sure what happened, but after that, I wasn't allowed to talk to him anymore. She got a hold of his social media. She took control. And things started to take a really dark, scary, ugly turn. And this is where we are right now. And I'm going to explain a few things about that. So that was November of last year. And then we weren't able to directly speak with each other anymore because now all those ways were compromised. And so we had developed many ways of communicating already besides that, just through being flirtatious and just being kind of weird and crafty. And, you know, we both get along very well in that sense. And so these things were just so easy. Stories were a part of it.
I'll go ahead and admit that to you. But we just knew how it worked. That was just a part of all of it. But we just knew how our language worked. And so we were able to communicate this whole entire time. It just turned into a more serious way of communication. And I'm here because of it. So through this method, I end up here. Now, over all these years, I have been talked up on this place. I mean, well, you can see it. I'm at the top of a hill. It's rainy and gross right now, and this place is overrun because it's a farm. And so it's a mess. And everything grows right now in the wintertime because it's, well, you can see why. And so it's beautiful around here. And I've been talked up on this place because he wants to stay here. And so I thought that he was going to be working on doing what I did, because that was the insinuation of, that's the reason I'm here, because we were going to be together. It has not worked out, obviously. And now I get here and I'm accused. Well, let me back up. So that was November. I take the time between November and June